Amazing, isn't it? They'll get an entire 90-piece orchestra huddled round a Nokia 6010, and they just have them play this all day. Quite extraordinary. The sad thing is, knowing their approach to efficiency, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they actually do. This is the last refuge of classical music in the modern age.
Grace
is not available.
Oh, look, it's a Philip Glass remix.
Record your message. When finished, you may hang up to deliver the message or press hash for more options.
You know, I'm not going to leave a message. It's just a hunch. I don't think anyone will get back to me. But I'm going to see if I can't reach a sentient being of some description. Even if it is, I don't mind if it is a highly trained macaw or whatever. But, you know, this is a telephone. It's meant for social intercourse. And by Christ, that's what I'm going to get. Even if I do have to spend a full 12 hours hitting redial. Bit of a Pyrrhic victory, but still a victory. I'm phoning the Housing Ombudsman because in 2008 I bought this flat, which I soon discovered had been so badly built that many of the plumbing joints were leaking. And so when damp started seeping into my flat, despite it being a new build, I complained about this mould that was like a metre high, spreading to many walls, in fact, in the end, all of them, all the walls in the property. And the housing association from whom I bought the flat ignored me. So I started talking to the neighbours who had the same thing, and it turns out they'd ignored them for 4 years. I was quite impressed. To maintain that level of militant ignorance is a skill. But it got to the point where I couldn't live there. It was so damp, it was causing breathing problems. But I still had to pay £1,000 a month in mortgage, rent, service charge, expenses, council tax. So I didn't have enough money to pay to live anywhere, really. It's a bit inconvenient. So I enlisted the help of the Housing Ombudsman, the organisation whose reason for being is to protect you against this. Well, I think that actually it could be that they just sell ice cream and they've got a very misleading name, because that would explain quite a lot. Because I'm sorry to say, I found them tardy, surly, ineffectual, very territorial in a way, but a sort of inverse version of it. They won't stray from their remit by 1 millimetre, and their remit seems to be precision engineered to disappoint. It might just be a British thing, I don't know. But they got this endless capacity for dissembling, and I have thought on occasion, I wonder if they actually exist at all. I've never worked out what they do. They're like a weed, plants that look like plants, but they just pretend. I sort of have wondered, is this a company that it's just pretend, it does everything a company should. It does seem to feast upon desk flesh, lots of jobs for presumably lots of people, but it could be an elaborate hoax. I don't know. It could be a social construct, like nectar points, I've never seen one. Have you seen one? So I thought I'd record this just to give you an indication of what you'll be up against if you go down this road, because I'm guessing this person won't be much help if I ever get through to a person. The last one, I did get through to a person once today, and they hung up when I said that I was recording the conversation. And then we got Philip Glass telling me that Grace isn't in. Well, that's pretty self-evident, isn't it? It doesn't surprise me, but it is dispiriting that Philip Glass is working in a call centre, but presumably his spirit's just being crushed by the machine. So after I initially complained to the Housing Ombudsman about my situation, they got on the case. They sent some correspondence to the wrong address a few times. And then they assumed the matter was resolved a few times.
Grace.
And then they failed to hold the Housing Association to any deadlines a few times. And I need to look that up, actually, because what's your definition of a deadline? Apparently, I didn't know this, it's a completely movable date, which I've been getting wrong for years. And then after that, I I did, I think, what a lot of us have done. I cried down the phone. This is what they've reduced me to. I'm an adult and I cried down the phone. But it did hit a nerve because after doing that, they accepted my case for investigation. That's right. It took me 6 months to even get them to accept it for investigation. I was homeless during this time, but 6 months of telephonic toil. And FYI, if you are going to get involved with them, don't expect emails. They don't like an email, too much immediacy, but they like a misspelt letter. That's their thing. And I'm not a stern grammarian, but if you are going to use the word there, then just at least choose one way of spelling it. Don't just make them a new one. That's the final indignity. So they like to send real letters through the Royal Mail. Maybe something to blame for lost correspondence. I can't believe I'm still on. You'd think, wouldn't you? Somebody would have answered by now. So after they accepted my case for investigation, they spent a further 8 months investigating. So 14 months in total. Bear in mind, I am homeless for this time. And then they decided that the Housing Association had failed on several counts. Thanks, Colombo. They produced a detailed and rather damning report. And then they decided that for the crime of making me homeless for a year and other miscellaneous inconveniences, they're boring, man. They're too boring to go into. But I'll tell you one, since we're here. They knocked down my bathroom wall to fix a leak that they'd caused due to bad building work and didn't put it back for 18 months. So I couldn't use the shower. I didn't have a shower for 18 months. I had to cry that time as well to get results because it seems we live in a society that only responds to infantile behaviour. I wish I'd realised that earlier. I think, it would have cut response times in half. So the Housing Ombudsman did this report. They decided that, yes, the Housing Association had made a lot of mistakes and should give me some compensation. £200. Which I was disappointed by because I had paid £12,000 for a flat I couldn't live in for a year. But £200. No need to thank us, Miss McCarpet. Just doing our job. So I went through the appeal process. I wasn't allowed 14 months to do that, a couple of weeks. And they admitted they'd been too hasty, £200, soza. They upped it to £300. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see what they're going to say. I do think they might be able to just never answer, though.
Grace is not available.
Maybe they
After the
won't.
tone, please record your message. When finished, you may hang up to deliver the message or press hash for more options.
Good afternoon, Independent Housing Ombudsman Service. Grace speaking. How can I help?
Hello, it's Kerry speaking here. I'm phoning with regard to a finding from the Ombudsman. I tried to speak to the person who dealt with my case, but she wouldn't allow me to record the conversation. So I'd like to speak to somebody who will allow me to record the conversation about it. I just want to ask how it was arrived at.
Right, can I take your surname there, Kerry?
It's McCarthy.
Good afternoon, this is the Dispute Resolution Team. Can I help?
Hi, it's Kerry here. I'm phoning about a finding that I've been dealing with the Ombudsman with for about 14 months. And I just want to know how it was arrived at. Basically, I'm not trying to change the decision. I've been told that's impossible. But I just want to get an understanding of why, after a year and 2 months of the Ombudsman working on this, they've come to a seemingly arbitrary decision, an amount of money that's £300. This is after my housing association's proven negligence caused me 18 months without a shower, followed by 12 months of homelessness. So I wanted to find out why £300 in compensation.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I can see that the review letter has been sent out on your complaint. The all I can really say, because I didn't investigate the case. I can't go into detail. I can't talk about the details of the case. All I can say is basically the investigation report outlines it, the evidence that we considered and sets out why we our assessment of the case. The decision letter and the review letter expands on that. If you believe that doesn't answer all your queries you have.
Well, it was sent to the wrong address. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps there's more. Basically, my housing association willfully ignored inadequate sanitation facilities, dangerous living conditions, and homelessness of one of the people who was paying them rent. And the findings are that they should pay me £300. But I don't really understand the orders. I quote, they need to ensure staff members who are responsible for administrating the complaints procedure are familiar with the terms of that procedure. Why even dignify that with a printing? That's basically implied by the job definition. And then another order to them is that when experiencing numerous reports of disrepair, they should seek the appropriate legal and specialist advice. Again, that could just be summed up by the fact they need to fulfill their contract. It's quite an hilarious act of space filling, and then their final order is that they need to identify ways in which they can improve their record keeping, when we know from dealing with them over the past 14 months, they just need to start keeping records. They have no records. So because I was prevented from going to court, I was told that if I go to court, you'll stop the investigation. I feel that there's no point in coming to the Ombudsman at all if they're just going to say you need to follow your contract. I feel I've achieved nothing, really.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but to be honest, all I can really say is that when we make an order, when we make orders on a case, we believe those orders are necessary in order to resolve the case, and obviously that the orders arise from our findings on the case. I know that you believe that these orders are perhaps,
well, they just seem inadequate. They seem redundant because saying that people who deal with complaints need to be familiar with the complaints procedure, why bother printing that? It seems like it's not worth 14 months of investigation.
Yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way, but obviously that was an issue that was identified during the course of the investigation, and as much as it may seem obvious or stating the obvious, it was something that we obviously felt the need to highlight.
I do agree. I agree there was a need to say that to them, but I feel that they should also be held more accountable because they deal with key workers, nurses, teachers and police who look after everyone. And if the Housing Ombudsman falls so woefully short of ensuring that these people have somewhere safe to live, when that's the whole purpose of the Ombudsman, I don't see what the point. How can you justify its existence? I'm wondering, would you now advise me, if I was at the start of this complaint, been homeless for 12 months and previously had no shower due to problems caused by the Housing Association for 18 months, so basically they're ignoring complaints, would you have a person like me actually just go to a lawyer, maybe borrow money, go to a lawyer and take them to court? Would that be a better way of dealing with it? Because I just haven't seemed to have got a result by coming to the Ombudsman, apart from an order to follow contract law.
That's entirely up to the individual in question. Obviously, the legal route is one process. We are another process, but it's up to each individual to consider their circumstances and decide how they want to proceed.
What could somebody hope to achieve by coming to the Ombudsman? Do you ever give compensation that is commensurate? So, for example, if somebody's...
Well, we do. To be honest, you're talking about things in a general, and I can't really give you...
Well, I just need to know how it normally operates. Could somebody come to you with a hope of being compensated their rent? Does that ever happen at all? Because perhaps people don't know. Like, I didn't know that I would end up with less compensation than I actually paid out in expenses incurred by the problem when I should have gone to court. I feel I should have just gone to court. Perhaps you don't have the power to be punitive. That's the case, isn't it? You can't say, we fine you, or can you? I'm wondering.
No. Our orders are orders of compensation. They're not punitive as such. In terms of your first point, it is possible that a tenant could be refunded his or her rent for a period, but again, I can only talk in general, and it does depend on the particular circumstances of that particular case. In your case, obviously that wasn't the order of compensation?
Yeah, it was because the housing association did in the end put me in alternative accommodation, but the way it's stated just seems a little bit inaccurate. It stated that they acknowledged my desire to have alternative accommodation when it wasn't a desire, it was a necessity because I couldn't live where I was living. Plus, it isn't really acknowledged that they took 14 months before they rehoused me. So I feel that I should get compensation for that 14 months. That seems to have been overlooked in the reductive statement that they did in the end rehouse me. I mean, I feel I need compensation for that period, which seems to have been ignored. It's good to know that you can get compensation in some cases. I don't understand why I haven't received sort of just a reimbursement of the amount I paid, during which time they didn't fulfill contract law.
Yeah, and I do, I do acknowledge that. I do hear the points you're making. I do understand why, you're dissatisfied with the determination and orders that we arrived at on your case. Again, all I can say from somebody who's not been involved in the case previously is that we do, again, speaking in general, but we do take into account all the circumstances.
They've ignored me and several other tenants. It was because they ignored another one for about 4 years that it ended up involving me. The problem spread to my flat. But after 4 years of ignoring unsafe housing conditions, quite willfully, I think, although they say not, but they've got no other reason at all. And that's in the report. They can't prove why they didn't act on this. They've been fined £300. It's not really acceptable for 4 years of ignoring tenants. I've read the report. I can't find an explanation. I mean, what would you advise me if I'm still unhappy with the finding?
Well, in terms of our process, I'm afraid that, the final determination letter, which basically was sent after a review of your case, that is the end of our process. There is no further steps or right to review, as it were. So that is the end of our process. I can only suggest that if you remain dissatisfied, then you seek advice in the first instance, or you can consider taking the matter to court.
I think
maybe considered originally.
I mean, perhaps I could have borrowed money and gone, but I thought I'd go to the body designated to deal with this kind of thing first. And that's why I held off for so long, for 14 months, because I was pretty sure that I would get the commensurate compensation. And that's why I am recording this. And, just to make it clear to people that it doesn't actually, I don't think it works. I think people should go to a lawyer instead.
Let's say
do you ever have appeals or anything?
Well, the final determination letter, which was sent in your case, on the 3rd of November, that is, that is sent after the case has been reviewed. Mm-hmm. We issued the preliminary determination, and then we review the case afterwards if there's further information that's provided by the party. As I say, that is it. After that, that is after the final determination letter. That is it.
Okay. Well, it just doesn't seem satisfactory.
Well, obviously, I set out. I have tried to advise you about what you can do next, but I have also explained that it's at the end of our process. And to be honest, I've got nothing really further that I can add. Well, is there any chance that I could speak to someone who was involved with the case at some point and record the conversation, since it is already recorded, as your message says, so that I can actually go into the details? Because, I mean, there must be good reasons why it's only £300 in compensation. And I think that for a public service body, that those reasons should be transparent. I mean, it'd be great if you could find anyone who can familiarise himself with the case to just explain in a more transparent fashion, the intricacies of it. Because I think, as someone who's had to bear with you for 14 months, I do deserve an explanation. So, I mean, that's just for you to pass on if somebody can get back in touch and is happy. Well, I can put that request through, but I definitely advise you that if you are recording a call, a colleague, colleagues do have the right not to take the call if that's the case. I mean, I have, in the interest of in the interest of service delivery, I have chosen to speak to you despite you.
Yeah, and I'm.
But I just want
pleased.
to advise you that colleagues of mine may not take that approach.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I'll let you go.
Okay then.
Okay.
Okay then. Well, take care then. Okay,
You too. Well, that's it then. I tried. I failed monumentally. And it's not his fault either. I wish it was, because then I could be angry with someone. But he's part of this technological eliminatrix of all human concern or accountability. So if you try to find someone at whom you can direct your anger, that's it. You can't. It's just metal. Only metal now. But good on him for talking to me in the first place. The other one just hung up when I said I was recording the conversation. I'll just stay in temporary accommodation then. Or a gutter. That's fine. But I have done everything society demands. I've gone to university. I've got several jobs at the moment. You know, I'm paying taxes that peddle a number of egregious governmental proclivities with which I don't agree. So, I mean, why don't you just post shit through my letterbox? Oh, that's right. I don't have one. So you can't now. But, you know, I've paid taxes in the hope that just as an opiate, just to keep me on board as a battery, they would not give me a place to live, but just make sure I didn't get brutally shafted out of the one for which I've worked so hard. I mean, really, really hard. Not down a mine, all right, but in commercial radio. It's been 10 years in commercial radio to get a one-bedroom flat in Wood Green, which, compared to going down a mine, many would argue that, you know, it's a lot of Phil Collins for quite a small flat in a crap area. Well, I shouldn't say that about Wood Green. It's got some multi-screen cinema complexes and unrivaled shopping facilities. Unfortunately, the only thing showing at both of them is the underside of a corporate space boot, as its stamps are rather bloody, but very attractive trademark onto your forehead. But, you know, a year ago this would have depressed me, and it did, in fact. But now it doesn't. That entire neural circuit is shut due to overuse. I can't get depressed at all. It's dangerous, because now I just have no stake in society whatsoever. And like lots of people, totally off the grid. I mean, I don't know where my post is going to at this stage. I think my post is being forwarded to Puff the Magic Dragon. Can I have it lightly grilled? Obscure the spelling mistakes.